Yes.
The shocking truth about living in Switzerland. Switzerland produces a kind of aura that makes living in the country a uniquely different experience. Yes, it is such a great place to visit and to live. Its charming scenery and lovely villages that have been featured in books and storybooks contribute to the liveliness of life in the country. It is a land full of hiking trails, great ski resorts, and nice meals. However, before you make the move, it's good to bear in mind that it has its unique challenges. The shocking truth about living in Switzerland is that everything about it isn't as it appears. In this video, we'll discuss some of those facts that you may need to take into consideration before moving to Switzerland. What to bear in mind. We're not about to demarket Swiss hospitality, tourism, housing, travel, and transport, among other industries. We love this country for many reasons. It's centrally located on the continent of Europe. You can easily drive to Italy, France, Germany, Austria, and Liechtenstein. In a few hours, you can find yourself in Paris, Barcelona, Rome, Frankfurt, or even London. If it's by a flight, you'll be there in just 2 hours. So it's good for that reason. All this won't be a luxury for most of the residents in the country, because most of those working there are huge earners. Another attraction is that it's at the crossroads of many of the European cultures. While it's seen as a culturally homogeneous country, it's certainly a culturally diverse country. The cultural diversity is bestowed on this country by its 4 national languages, which are German, French, Italian, and Romansh. Interestingly, each of these languages radiates its own culture, is deeply entrenched in it. We also love its political stability and tranquility. The eco-friendliness of the country is another reason some people may consider it the best place to be. The country is actually leading the way to sustainability and the way to a better sustainable future. For these and many other reasons, you may consider moving to Switzerland. However, you have to look well before you leap. The shocking truth about living in Switzerland is that there are negative or dark sides of the country that might make you think twice and relocate. Now, let's go there. Do you have what it takes? You probably have seen videos and pictures of those beautiful, well-furnished houses with padded living rooms and aesthetically pleasing terraces. You find them attractive? Well, it costs no small fortune to become an occupier of such houses. Housing in Switzerland is quite expensive. One big reason some people have decided not to move to Switzerland is the cost of housing in the country. It's the 3rd most expensive in Europe for realtors, if measured per square meter. For good reasons, including economic viability, Geneva and Zurich are especially very expensive. They're among the cities in Europe with the most expensive housing. Viewed broadly, and on average, a Swiss spends up to 25% to 40% of his net income on rent or mortgage. Of course, that would depend on housing type and location, among other factors. One source puts the current average price of an apartment in the country at $744,201. You likely aren't going to buy a home right away. Then, you have to prepare to spend about $300 to rent a square meter of where to lay your head. That gives you an average of about $3,000. More disturbing is the fact that renting, apart from cost, can generally be difficult for a foreigner. You're certainly not planning to be homeless in Switzerland like those sleeping in the cold under bridges a while ago in Denmark and the UK. If at all, that'll not be allowed here. But then, Switzerland isn't blessed with much land despite the fact that it's a landlocked country. They don't have enough space to build houses in areas close to attractive major cities. We access one information source that tells us that less than 40% of the population are homeowners. The matter is complicated for foreigners. They aren't allowed to buy a home in Switzerland, even if they can afford it, unless they first obtain a residence permit. And even with your residence permit, you still don't have a guarantee as it's not automatic. So this isn't one of the countries where you can simply charge a realtor with the task of finding a home for you to buy. Little wonder why many foreigners settle for unfurnished properties despite all the inconveniences. They find it tough to rent furnished ones. A Swiss bank account is a must to rent a home, and you need to have proof of a lease to open one. Now, Do you have what it takes to live in this country? We have yet more shocking truth about living in Switzerland. Let's shift our attention away from housing. Other costs of living in Switzerland. We want to give you this hint. The cost of living in Switzerland is generally high. We don't have to mince words on that. You just have to swallow the bitter pill that those living in Switzerland are compelled to cope with a high cost of living. Let us start examining this from the angle of feeding. After all, the most basic human need is food. You need it to survive anywhere before you start thinking about housing and other conveniences. But in this country, basic food items cost a great deal. Before you learn to combine food and the skill needed to preserve and recycle them here, you must have spent a lot of your hard-earned fortunes and savings. Dining out here, which is unavoidable, is very expensive. At least, you must spend the first few days as an expat in the country eating out. By the time you check your balances after the first month, you'll conclude that feeding yourself in Switzerland can be a pricey endeavor. Well, the blow on your finances is softened by the exceptional quality of food products, since you know what you spent your money on. Cooking at home makes just a little difference. Monthly groceries can run between $450 and $680 per person per month for basic items, while an average restaurant meal costs around $28 to $45 per person. Either way, it can quickly drain your wallet. Managing your health can be shocking. Health is another basic necessity. Unfortunately, one shocking truth about living in Switzerland is that the Swiss are spending a lot of fortune on health insurance. If you fall sick in this country, you have a lot to spend to care for that. But you don't have to fall sick before you understand how expensive the country's healthcare system is. It is crystal clear that Swiss health insurance is far from the best around. We've earlier explained to you in one of our videos on this channel that you have to pay for most of the treatment you require out of pocket, while you wait to be reimbursed later by the health insurance program. Meanwhile, treatment without health insurance isn't accessible in the country that has spent 90 of residency. This simply means that the options here are not about whether or not you are sick. Even if you feel generally healthy and are only moving to Switzerland for 6 months, you're required to get private health insurance. If you compare the cost of health insurance here with that of other countries, you might be as shocked as many expats who have worked in those countries. If you compare Switzerland to neighboring EU countries, you'd know that health-wise, it's an expensive country. While its healthcare system ranks among the best in the world, the fact that it's largely funded by government-mandated private insurance premiums makes it less desirable. Besides all that, generic drugs aren't common in Switzerland. You therefore have to pay more to get basic pharmaceutical products, including prescriptive drugs. Do you want to raise a family? If you're thinking about raising a family while living in Switzerland, please consider the country's expensive childcare. According to UNICEF, it's the 4th most expensive in the world. A study of childcare in rich nations conducted in 2021 by UNICEF concluded that Cyprus, the US, and Slovakia are the only places with more unaffordable childcare than Switzerland. By any standard, 2 children shouldn't be a burden for a couple deeply in love. However, the couple would need to spend about a third or a half of their salary to foot the bill for their 2 children's childcare, if they're average earners. That's why parents in the country rely heavily on informal care, while others look to care provided by friends, relatives, or neighbors. Can you count the cost? We are telling you this now so that it will not be rude when you are confronted by the shocking truths about living in Switzerland. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell.